This video is going to show you Solo Master Nightfall getting Platinum rank and showing you how to solo farm it. For those who just want to see that, then skip the timestamps. Over that, I can show you the build and the modifiers, etc. So I won't cover the mods too much, just the important parts. So Hot Knife is on, Shanks have solar shields. Farming is on, all ammo drops are reduced. The general other modifiers are on, it's Barrier Overload, and it's a Q Arc Burn for Devil's Lair. That's the Nightfall this week, it's the final one. The key point, though, is that Lightning Crystals is on, which is the best farm for Nightfalls. Whenever it comes up, it's the best one to do for the Mastered difficulty and below. So if you want to farm this Nightfall for whatever reason, for your endgame mats or the weapon, then here you go. It's the best time to do it today. It's daily modified, so it's only for 24 hours from reset. So from Tuesdays to Wednesday reset, it's Lightning Crystals. After that, it's Enfilade or Superconductor, which is not as good as this modifier, right, for farming it specifically. So I'll just quickly run through what I've got on. We have a super Thundercrash, class abilities Thruster, Seismic Strike, Storm Grenades, Aspects of Knockout, Touch of Thunder, Fragments of Spark of Shock, Magnitude, Feedback, Ions. Pairing that with the Exotic Chestplate Heart of Inmost Light for ability Spam. On the armor mod front, so the helmet, we've got Ashes to Assets, Font of Might, Anti-Barrier Scout Rifle loaded with Elemental Ordnance. Double Arc Resist with one seasonal mod for the solar, right? And then a high energy fire there. With Linear Fusion Rifle Scavenger, Recuperation. I mean, Recuperation didn't matter because we weren't really making orbs, but it was just there. That was an oversight. And then with the class item, we had Sunray Glare and Surge Detonators. Surge Detonators is the big one, and these two mods, put these two on, they're going to help you a bunch. As I say, I'll talk more about everything in the video itself. Weapon-wise, we're using a Scout Rifle for barrier shields, Exotic Bow, Le Monarque, because it's got intrinsic overload, and Pitchglass, the Arc Linear Fusion Rifle, which is a precision frame. So just pick up on, that's the key point, it's a precision frame, not the aggressive style frame. And I'll talk to you why I used a precision style over the other one. I recommend a high resilience stat and then a high discipline stat for this. So that was the setup. So as we start the run, you want to pull out your Sparrow right away and Sparrow right through the center. None of the ads really should touch you because it's a massive difficulty. So you shouldn't get hit hard. The only problem you'll have there getting through is if you're under leveled, like 1580s, your Sparrow might get one shot and stuff. But your Sparrow will have more health the higher your power is. Now look at the checkpoint on the left hand side. You need to do what I've just done. If you don't, none of the ads will spawn. Wait for that checkpoint to spawn in, because well, you've got to do that if you go too fast with the Sparrow. So what I'm doing here is bullying the barrier straight away. We'll pull out the Scout, get the shield break. We're weak-ish, but enough to survive that. That's fine with our power. Now I'm going to play far more aggressive as opposed to normally because this modifier Lightning Strikes is on. So this run is more to sort of showcase the best out of the setup. It's not for somebody to follow along exactly. Only if you're at power, then you can follow along and do what I do. Because I am aware that people do actually, they will literally load a video up and follow somebody bit for bit. Some people are like that. They take people very literal, whereas some people take some of your tips and do a bit of their own stuff. But I'm just saying that you can't replicate this if you're low power. If you're in the 1580s, you don't want to be, as I say, pushing up so far and stuff like that, right? But if you're 1590 range, then you can replicate what I'm doing. I'm better. So that's just what I think on that. Now, you want to try and spawn kill some of the Fallen first, not the Hive, because if you leave Hive up, that means the Overlord and all the enemies, the Arc, the Fallen enemies, sorry, they're going to be concerned with the Hive, but that means you can just nade them all and the Storm just takes them all out. So leaving one wizard up is a top tip for this, right? Because it just gives you that saving grace. It's like you're a spectator at that point. You're just dealing damage and they're preoccupied with each other. So first wave, I'm going to spawn kill the Overlord, which it spawns from this door every time. So we're going to do that. We'll use a super for that. So Storm plus super. Then we want to get behind us and then try and kill out some of these enemies from the other two doors before they separate up. The closer they are together, all the enemies, if they're clustered, the better the Storm Grenade's going to do, the better the spawn killing's going to do. And that's the biggest tip you can learn from this video is where do all the spawns exactly come out? Because if you're sitting at the back of the map all the enemies were spread out, and it's like, well, where did such and such come from? And you know, that overload or that sniper or whatever, then you'll know, right? Now, at the end of each phase, you'll get a phase of Shanks, which is solar shields. So I probably would have benefited from using Tychers. The exotic bow would have worked out good for this, but as I said, it's not too bad. The lightning grenades are going to overcharge. They're going to overrule those unmatched shields anyways, you can see. But I barely use the Monarque as well, so it wouldn't have been a bad idea just to put on Tychers. Tychers is just known to be quite bad on overloads. It's nowhere near as good as the Monarque. But as I said, the storm grenade's killing the overloads anyways, so it wouldn't have been a bad idea. On this phase 2, we want to try to clear out the wizards as quick as we can, and then we're going to super this wave of adds here. I supered slightly too soon, but it's not too bad because the aftershocks from T-Crash is doing damage, plus my lightning, he didn't even get a chance to put barrier up. Right, now we're going to focus the rest of the adds, because on that phase 2, we haven't been able to clear out all the adds because we were dealing with the hive and all that stuff, but the rest of the Fallen should be just at the back of the map, really. And then we'll get another wave of our captains and stuff. We want to spawn kill those as quickly as possible. I'll use this tanker thing to my left and sort of use that as cover and just sort of jump over it, throw a grenade, jump over it, do a dodge. Obviously keep doing your thruster. Pay close attention to your class ability energy. That's why you want high resilience, because it's even the lightning crystals obviously affect class ability as well as grenades, but it just means that you can keep doing it, right? Because it's obviously that's how Heart of Inmost Light works with the ability regen, but it's stacking with lightning crystals. That's why this is so good. So I believe that's phase 2 done. On the final phase, you're going to get some overloads. So we're going to use a super on here because all the adds are still clustered. That's the key, and getting the adds to still stay clustered. That means getting your damage in as quickly as you sort of can, right? Because once they start to spread out, all your abilities are less effective, and it's going to take you longer to take all that stuff out. So it's just being at the right time, at the right place, and getting your nades in when you need to be. There's some invisible marauders, so we'll do a nade where I am and dodge out of it. Just bear in mind with the storm grenades, just one quick note is that you take self-inflicted damage from them, but that's only when they open up. Think of it as if you throw the grenade, when that impacts something, that nade opens up. On that initial burst of damage, you take self-inflicted damage, but the rest of it isn't. It's like what a pulse nade's like, very similar. When you do a pulse nade at your feet, you do take some damage at first, and then when you sit in that pulse nade, it doesn't damage you. It's the same principle. This one, we're just going to let the nade do the work like everything else. And then we're going to make our way to the tank section. So to do the tank section quickly, we've got a super, which I've specifically saved for this barrier. I'm just going to run out in the open, right, and wait for the barrier to spawn, and it's delayed, right, and it's random sort of where that barrier will sort of spawn in at. It's round the building area basically. My T-Crash doesn't one-shot because I didn't have Curious Star on, right, but obviously you can't, you're a Heart of Inmost Light on, but it does enough damage for us to, you know, a Storm Grenade plus Super will kill a barrier on each amp, so it's good enough. So now we've spawned in the extra waves of the enemies, which was happening whilst I was killing the barrier. That spawns in 2 Brigs and a tank. The strat here is to get rid of the 2 Brigs as quickly as possible. And what you can do is just Storm Grenade 1, dodge, Storm Grenade the other one, dodge, and just keep doing that between the 2. Don't do any damage to the tank yet, because that's going to cost you time. Because once you start to commit doing damage to the tank, you're going to get ships spawning and stuff like that. And you don't want them in yet. You want the Brigs down and out of your way, because that is an enemy that needs to be killed to proceed to the final boss. Like if you clear out everything and there's still 1 Brig left, you won't get the next checkpoint update. So we're doing some damage from a range with the storms, but we're going to commit to damage in a minute. We've got charge with light, notice. We're going to use the Pitchglass linear because it's precision frame, as opposed to Storm Chaser being aggressive. Now the reason why I picked Pitchglass over, look at the damage he's doing, over Storm Chaser is because Storm Chaser isn't very good from range. right? It's more, the further, like if you're 50, 60 meters away, getting the free crits, because it's a burst style linear, is far harder than what you think. And if some of them are body shots, say 1 crit 2 body, you're losing so much damage. And you could have just pulled out a precision style frame one like this, so much easier to use from range. I think in GMs as well, you're gonna see how better Tarantula is and Pitchglass is, as opposed to Storm Chasers, because they're rival arc linears, right? Like if you're within like a good range, like if it's a Nightfall that's like close quarters, then Storm Chasers is probably better, because you can actually proc Sunder and Glare faster, because each individual shot from the burst counts towards Sunder and Glare, so you can get Sunder and Glare in one shot. So that's good, noted. But again, in something like this where you're playing from range, especially on GM difficulty, a precision style, even Cataclysmic would be better, even though it's solar and it's not arc. So that's what I mean with it. There's something that gets overlooked at on that is there's still a place for precisions and aggressive. They're each playstyles. So we're just going to clear out the remainder adds. Everything's dealt with, right? Let the Storm Grenade do everything. We're good on ammo notice as well, which is really good. That's because I use double primary heavy, which equals more heavy, if you didn't know, or double special heavy equals more heavy as well. But obviously double special is not something that's as good to do. I mean, I guess I could do, because the Storm Grenade's dealing with everything. So I could have went double sniper. Could have went double sniper linear. That wouldn't have been a problem to do. Yeah. Plus, especially with Sunder and Glare and stuff. So yeah, there's ways and means of how you want to go about doing it. So when the ads are cleared out, you want to be ready to do your damage. Now I'm going to do a Storm Grenade as soon as that shield goes down, and then T-Crash. You need to be right away with it. If you don't, you will miss the boss, and the boss will teleport out of your way. Right? Then we'll follow up with a linear shot if we need be. That'll get the boss instantly a third. So we're on phase 2 already. Yeah? Now, obviously, this is your safe. This is where you work from, right? And then we're just going to do a couple of Storm Nades to take out a couple of the Shanks and Arc Shields and any Fallen and stuff like that. We don't want to leave too many enemies alive, because between phases you want to be getting in good damage to the boss. And in order to do that pretty safely, you need the field of enemies pretty clear. Now, what you need to understand is, for each phase, there is a phase of enemies for Fallen. But they are not unlimited. Eventually they will stop coming on this particular phase, provided you don't start the next phase. But the Shanks are unlimited. They're on a time. Now I'm trying to beat that time, I think. But I think Shanks actually come out on me as I'm starting to do damage on this video. I think it does on this run anyway. It might be on phase 3. You know, it actually is. So you can see I'm about to do my Storm T-Crash Super. Just as the boss's shield goes down, I get the Shanks, and I get weak off them, because they do a lot of damage to you in numbers. So what I'm going to do instead, rather than do the T-Crash, which was my intention, was do some linear damage from down here. This is my plan B. Always have a plan B. Look, we got Sunder and Glare to proc. Boss gets to damage. Phase 3. Now we can deal with the final phase, which is the only phase to have Overload champions in it. So we're really just going to focus our Storm Grenade this side and far side, and sometimes in this corridor. That's where I do place my nades. That's what you want to do, and the Lightning Grenade will deal with everything, even Overloads. You can even stun an Overload around the corner and not see the Overload and kill that Overload. I think I do it on this run as well. Yep. Almost certain, yeah, it is this one. So look, he's in my nade, stunned. So I'll throw a grenade roughly where I want. And that storm, is going to go exactly where I want it. Just track the Overload. This is the final Overload I dealt with. Notice as well, we actually skipped the first Overload in the entire Nightfall. You don't need it for Platinum. You'll still get Platinum rank. I didn't mention that, because the runs, as I said, there's a lot going on at once. I can't commentate on everything. On runs like this, they're actually harder to commentate on as opposed to a GM. So now we're just doing some damage. We're hurrying up a little bit because we've got the heavy. We've beat the phase of Shanks, so there's not a phase of Shanks right now. So we'll finish off that. We'll do a Storm. We'll do our T-Crash. Boss is lagging on HP, and then there's enemy spawn coming, but we'll just finish off with our linear. That was a solo farm on this. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.